Hey, welcome back to another Rules Breakdown, and this time we're going to be looking at this, which is the basic set of Dungeons and Dragons by TSR from 1977, which I covered a couple of weeks ago. Now, this is where Dungeons and Dragons and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons started to branch off into separate versions. However, this is at the very start of it, because unlike most of the other basic sets we get, including like the Bakery set later on, there is no expert box to go with this. In the rules, it tells you that if you want to take this further than third level, then you go on to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So this really is just an introductory version of it. But the rules are pretty different to what comes later. So I think it's a really interesting thing to look through and see how this version is the path not taken for Dungeons and Dragons, where the rules went in different directions. So let's have a look at the rules of Dungeons & Dragons from 1977, the Holmes set. And so skills. Well, there are no such things as skills in basic Dungeons & Dragons from 1977. What we have saving throws, which are very similar to what they are, but because this is only handling levels 1 to 3, they don't change. So we've got saving throws here for normal man, kobold, goblins, etc., fighting men, thieves, hobgoblins, magic users, clerics, and dwarves and halflings. On the bottom of page 13 here. And if we go back to page 6, we can see that modifiers on attributes are very, very different in this version to later versions as well. One of the classic attribute modifiers is your strength. In all other versions of Dungeons & Dragons, you add your strength to your chance to hit with a weapon, and you add it to your damage with that weapon. However, in this version, that doesn't happen. Your attributes count towards getting your experience bonus for your prime requisite for your class, but only Constitution adds to your hit die for having high numbers, and Dexterity adds to firing missiles, but no other attribute has any modifier. And I really do like this adjusting ability scores section below, where depending on what class you are, you could take points from rolling high on a useless attribute and put it into a more useful one. So magic users could take points of strength and put them into intelligence, and clerics could put them into wisdom, etc. But for skill rolls where you're rolling an extra instant attribute, what me and my friends used to do is roll a d20 under it. So if you're trying to lift something very heavy and you've got a strength of 15, you're trying to roll a 15 or lower to lift that very heavy thing. But Adventures of the Time recommend rolling 3d6 with a modifier. So a couple of the old adventures, they have you deciphering languages, and they have to roll under your intelligence 3d6 plus 1 or plus 2, depending on the difficulty of the language. So you are adding over that, so the modifier makes it more difficult. However, 3d6 still only adds up to 18, so having an 18 gives you no chance of failing in a basic roll. So to me and my friends, rolling the d20 made more sense, especially as that's what you're also rolling for your saving throws and for your to hit. And so initiative. Well, it's very simple. Whoever has the highest dexterity goes first. There's no rolling of dice except in the case of ties. If two people are tied for dexterity, then they roll a d6 until one of them gets a higher number, if they tie again, and then that person goes first out of the two of those. There's none of the rolling dice and adding it to a number, none of the rolling a d6 on each side, and whoever goes higher goes first. That happens in the later versions of basic Dungeons and Dragons. And this is just highest dexterity goes first. But the number of actions you get is dependent on your weapon. It deals with this earlier on the page, where it mentions that most weapons you can attack once, but light weapons such as the dagger allow 2 blows per round. The heavy two-handed sword, battle axe, halberd, flail, mooring star, and most polearms can only be used once every other round. So that's worth bearing in mind in combat, that extremely heavy weapons go once every other round. Daggers go twice in a round, and sort of medium weapons, swords, etc., go once per round. And that's going to be very interesting when we come to damage. And attacking, well, that's dealt with on page 18 on this chart. And it's a very simple THACO type system. You're attempting to roll a d20 over the number necessary to hit each armor class. So for a first or third level character, they need to roll to hit armor class 3 over a 16. And remembering that they get bonuses if they have magic items, the plus of the weapon adds to that dice roll, as it will do to the damage in a moment. And damage, well, that's dealt with also on page 18. If a hit is scored, a hit has been made on the opponent, he then makes another die roll with one 6-sided dice to see how many points of damage were done by that hit. And all attacks just do 1d6 damage, obviously modified by magic items. But if you're using a dagger, you're doing 1d6 damage, or rather, since you're attacking twice, you're possibly doing 2d6 damage. And if you're using a sword, you're doing 1d6 damage every round. If you're using a big heavy battle axe, you're doing 1d6 every other round. So all weapons do exactly the same damage, 1d6. And health. Well, health is dealt with on page 11 and is based on hit points. So you have your hit dice, which you roll as you go up each level, and that's how many hit points you have. We can see here that fighting men, elves, halflings, and dwarves have 1d8, magic users have 1d4, clerics have 1d6, and thieves have 1d4. Obviously, modifying that for high or low constitution, so you can get more than that. And when you lose all your hit points, you go down and you are dead. The game is as simple as that. Once you lose your hit points, you die. And advancement. Well, it's a level-based system where you get experience and you go up levels. In that chart on page 11 that we just looked at, we can see that fighting men, elves, halflings, and dwarves require 2,000 experience to go to level 2, 4,000 to go to level 3. Magic users require 2,500 to go to level 2, clerics require 1,500 to go to level 2, and thieves require 1,200 to go to level 2, and 2,400 to go to level 3. So they get to level 3 before magic users even get to level 2. And as you level up, you gain extra hit dice, which you roll and add, obviously applying constitution modifiers or penalties. And the fighting men, well, that's it for them. When they go up a level, they don't get any bonus saves, they don't get any bonus to hit, they just get their bonus hit dice. Magic users do get extra level spells, clerics get access to level spells as well, and thieves get access to their thief abilities. But for basic characters, for your fighting men, your elves, your halflings and dwarves, all they get is extra hit dice, and that's advancement done and dusted. So, it's a very simple system. Something I probably should have mentioned in the skills section is the thief's abilities. So, as they go up levels, first level they get access to the A level, so open lock of 15%, move trap 10, pickpocket 20, move silently 20, hide in shadows 10, and hear noise on a roll of 1 or 2. Going up to level 2, they get B level ones, so open lock 20%, move trap 15, pickpocket 25, move silently 25, hiding shadows 15, and then finally level C, they up and up 25%, and so on. And these are basically to percentile-based abilities, so you're rolling a D100 and trying to get under that. And as I said, it's a very simple system. There's not much to it. It's very streamlined and very quick. And it's very, very similar to later versions of Dungeons & Dragons. There's just a few key differences. But anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.